The key is to make our choices deliberately and intentionally, and then regardless of how the chips fall, at least we had some hand in it.
Today's guests, they are amazing, adventurous, world-traveling couple. They're also parents of 3 world-traveling boys, martial artists, and best-selling authors of the book Resilience Parenting, which you can find on Amazon. Chris and Holly Santillo, which rhymes with pillow. They're also known, along with their 3 boys, as the 5 Backpacks family. Chris and Holly are not your regular authors or parents, having strong backgrounds in martial arts, Chris being the founder and head instructor at Potomac Kempo in Alexandria, Virginia, and Holly being a senior instructor. They've managed to develop the principles of martial arts into a cohesive parenting methodology. They believe that children and parents with broader horizons and an open mind can sow the seeds for future generations of confident, stronger, and resilient adults. These days, you'll find Chris and Holly and their 3 boys gliding through the Siberian steppes of the Trans-Siberian Railway, visiting the buzzing markets along the Silk Road, and wandering the vast wildernesses of the Gobi Desert in Mongolia. They've decided to live a life of nomadic life and explore the world with their 3 boys in order to bring back memories, ideas, experiences, and a fresh view on life. Joining us today from Britain, welcome Chris and Holly.
Hi, thanks to be here.
Hey guys.
Glad to be here.
Hey. Good to see you.
Thanks to be here. That's what they say in jolly old England.
Jolly old England.
Hey, it's really great to be here.
Take my word for it. We're practically fluent. So we've arrived just 5 months ago, and we're practically fluent.
There's a little bit of a learning curve with English, right?
Oh, for sure.
All right. Hey, so to kind of kick things off, it sounds like the both of you had what many parents would describe as a stable life, successful careers, house, cars, financial means, and 3 children. What prompted you to make the pivot to sell everything except what you could fit into just 5 backpacks and travel the world?
Curiosity.
That's not a song.
Curiosity. This is what happens when we talk late at night. Things start coming out in song.
No, things don't come out.
That is a song.
It's not a song.
Well, you answer the question then.
Okay, I'll answer the question. So everything was more or less perfect. We lived the perfect suburban life. We had friends and neighbors and everything. So we decided to throw it all away and leave. Seems pretty straightforward. Was there more to your question than that?
Yeah, no, that about sums it up. Yeah.
The best advice that I've ever encountered is to not make decisions in the valley. Always make decisions at your high points. That if you were to decide, if we had made this decision because everything was going terribly wrong in life, then it could be because of fear or uncertainty, but because I'm very happy to say we were in a very good place in our lives and our careers and our family development and whatnot. It seemed like a healthy and strong place to try something new. And we were curious.
Are you sure there's not a song in there?
I don't think that's a song.
I feel like we just kind of accidentally jumped into the mainstream and woke up one day and realized that we hadn't made a lot of conscious choices. We were just doing what people do, what responsible people do. We went to school, and then we went to the school after the school, and then we got the job after the school, and then the other job, and hadn't taken a moment to reflect on, just how exactly we wanted to be living this life. So we decided to create that for ourselves and learn a bit more about what we really want rather than just accidentally living our lives.
That's amazing. And I totally appreciate that. You said a couple of powerful things or important things there. And one is, you followed the standard path, right? And then at one point you realized that maybe you weren't living a deliberate life, maybe the life that you wanted to live, and you made a conscious choice to make a change. And I think so many people these days are just caught up in the day-to-day grind of just going to work, coming home, doing XYZ, mowing the lawn, that they don't even take a look at what other possibilities there are out there for them in life.
Well, and you, at the risk of quoting Socrates at this hour of the night, the unexamined life is not worth living. Which I don't know if that presupposes that the examined life is by default worth living, but he doesn't touch on the contrapositive. But in the absence of reflection, you're not living your life intentionally. You're living it by accident, just like you said. Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, Andy. The key is to make our choices deliberately and intentionally, and then regardless of how the chips fall, at least we had some hand in it.
Well, and I should say that we were fortunate enough to be able to do so. You know, you listed off our stable place. That is what allowed us to be able to do what we're doing. We made some good financial choices as we went, and I don't know. I'm really grateful for the opportunity. I'll put it that way, and realize that it's not necessarily that accessible for everyone. So I want to say I'm glad that we could.
Well, I don't know, Andy, if there's something you're making faces at us, I think.
No, I just, what you've just said is, I think, very powerful. And I was just kind of thinking ahead a little bit. If, what advice would you give to a family or an individual? And I think part of that was you planned ahead, you made financial choices intentionally to get to the point where you could make this break or make this pivot in life. And I know that, speaking for myself and then Casey and I as a couple, for several years, we weren't living very intentionally. We were just kind of bouncing from one thing to another, getting up to the mountains to adventure when we could. And it's when we started looking ahead and making deliberate decisions that we were able to make the pivot that we wanted to in life. So I think that's very powerful.
Well, what she alluded to, of course, is the dollar sign. And when we spoke before, we talked about the decision to pick up and leave was at some point boiled down to a math problem, right? Mm-hmm. There's certain things need to be paid for, and money does it. And what it boils down to is money buys freedom. You can buy a lot of things with money. You can buy jet skis, or you can buy freedom. And how we spend our money. But we sat down once, and this is going back quite a while back. And changed our projected retirement date by 20 years during the course of a couple-hour conversation, because you say, this is what I'm going to spend my money on. This is what I'm going to prioritize. And, adventures aren't typically expensive. Well, I shouldn't say don't have to be expensive. And we made some intentional choices about what was more important, and changed our financial trajectory through the course of a conversation. And because if you need X to live on, then you need to save this much. And if you only need half X, well, you only need half as much.
And that's what it took, right? Is having just that conversation and saying, hey, you know what? Let's do something different. Let's take advantage of an opportunity. Let's create something special.
Well, yeah, we could go on a trip and explore Mongolia, or we could buy a Mercedes. Like, you have to make choices in life. Mm-hmm. And some choices are so much better than other choices.
Yeah. One of the things that we did before we hit the road for adventure pre-COVID was we just minimized, right? We reduced nearly everything we had to just what would fit into our Xterra in our roof box that we need for adventuring. And that in itself was so liberating, just going, wow, I don't need this stuff. This stuff doesn't really make me happy. It's not solving any problems in my life. It's not getting me to where I want to be. It's almost cathartic, I guess, is a good way to put it.
It was quite, yeah, we had the same experience. And I always felt so bogged down. Every day, it felt like I was shoveling my stuff around. That's just how I spent all my time, with an enormous stuff shovel. Like, I'll put a little over here, put a little over there. I'll do that one later.
Well, and you touched on, you said that you mentioned the Pandora's COVID, that, we're in this kind of alternate reality. The introduction you read listed off neat places we were, and the reason we have 5 backpacks is so we could walk from buses to trains and whatnot. But that's not our life right now, because public transportation is not the safest choice anymore. So now we're in a car.
Are you confessing that we have more stuff?
Yeah,
now?
Right. So we're like 5 backpacks and a trunk.
We have 2 whole pads of paper.
Yeah, we have a shoebox.
Yeah.
With pads of paper in it.
We have some playing cards.
2 decks. It's ridiculous. You don't know what family needs 2 decks of playing cards.
Oh, a book, like a real
what?
book.
Yeah.
With paper?
Yeah, with paper. It's hardback. It's a hardback book. We bought it for the kids for their birthday. Spoiled brats.
It's true. We're getting pretty loose around the edges.
Well, next time we have an airplane, we're going to have to get rid of our shoebox.
Oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting rid of the shoebox. The only reason we have a shoebox is because Holly has more than one pairs of shoes now. This is ridiculous.
Well, you've only got 2 feet, right? What?
Yeah, exactly. Who needs more than 2 shoes? I think you can probably get away with 1.5 shoes if you were really, really judicious.
Yeah. Some duct tape.
It's some duct tape.
Yeah, 1.5 and some duct tape. Exactly.
Curious about your philosophy around building resilient parents and children. How did you? So martial arts was, I think, maybe the foundation or your one of your touchstones for this philosophy. But what does that really entail? What's your philosophy around resilience?
Chris is looking at me.
I know the answer too. We both know the answer.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Well, the goal of the book was to take the aspects, the non-physical components of our curriculum, and deliver it to parents. And I'll just my little secret hobby is I really wanted to write a book for adults because we all need to develop our resilience. We all need to be more
You
independent.
guys know that.
And more connected.
You're working on that for those adults out
right?
there.
But somehow it's easier for adults to be like, no, I'm perfect, but I'm going to read this book about my kids, right? So, if we ever get around to it, maybe we'll someday be brave enough to write one to like, no, I'm talking to you, Mr. Adult. But anyway, the pillars that we teach at the school and then deliver in our parenting book is learning, integrity, and service. And that if we cultivate the elements of learning and integrity and service, and that we can break them down separately if you want to, or we can just kind of take them as they are. If we do that correctly, then we become resilient. And we define resilient as being strong enough to overcome obstacles, flexible enough to bend when necessary, and then able to recover if and when those two first plan A and plan B fail, don't work for us. And it comes by being independent and connected simultaneously. And then the last thing I'll say, not necessarily the last thing I'll ever say, but the last thing on that I want to point out is I think that there are a lot of us as parents and as individuals who have this false choice that we believe that human being can either be independent or connected, but that somehow it's a sliding scale, like it's this linear scale. And it's just not true. If we think about ourselves on our best days, as well as the best amongst us, we know that they are both simultaneously well connected to their friends and their family and their communities, while at the same time independent and able to act powerfully of their own initiative. And so it's not a choice between the two, it's a goal of developing both in lockstep.
Very powerful.
Absolutely.
I feel like the mission of self-mastery that you have mentioned in your blogs ties in well to the idea of independence that we talk about in the book, and the integrity as well. That many of the themes that come up in martial arts in a physical way have an expression in the concept of integrity, being able to assess yourself and being able to know when you can power through something or when it's time to adapt. Important skills.
And one of the things we touch on, integrity is such an integral part of everything that we do, of course. And one of the things we really try to draw out in the book, as well as our martial arts teaching, is that integrity is both your obligation to other people, but also, and perhaps most importantly, your obligation to yourself. And that when we as individuals say, I will do this, then we've committed our integrity to that, and we become very powerful in the pursuit of that end once we commit to it. And integrity is like a muscle that it gets stronger with practice. And when we don't, either obviously if we don't fulfill it, that's terrible in its own right. But a lot of times we under-challenge ourselves, and we just don't. There's nothing, we're not failing to meet our integrity, but we're also not making it hard on ourselves. And so we are missing opportunities to grow and develop. That reminds me, there are a lot of things I should probably do tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, shoot.
In order to grow, develop as a human being.
Darn, I was planning on taking tomorrow off of personal development. Shoot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. So I guess to paraphrase, or what I'm hearing you say is that to some extent, we have to have a level of integrity to ourselves and actually follow through on our commitments to ourselves. And that's part of showing up better in the world. But also perhaps that the easy road or the easy choice isn't necessarily the best one. And it tends to make us maybe a little bit weaker in some areas, if not all areas of our lives.
We have a family credo, and one of the phrases in the credo is that comfort is not the goal.
I love it.
Oh, that's great.
We have 200,000 years of human evolution, where we're trying to make our lives easier and easier. We moved from, sleeping on rocks to dirt to, I guess we don't know for sure people slept on rocks before this, but sleeping on, now we have memory foam, which is a big step up from rock.
I do like my memory foam.
Oh yeah. You guys talk about camping, but I'm just too old to lie on the ground if I don't have to. You talked about getting a van. I'd have a 12-inch memory foam in the back of that van. I wouldn't have any gear. Yeah, I would just have my giant memory foam mattress to sleep on. But that aside,
if you wrap
comfort
that
is not the goal.
in
But
your
comfort
life
is not the goal.
goal,
But comfort is not the
then
goal.
you end up not growing, just like you guys are talking about.
Right.
It makes me think
I lost the thread there when I got fixated on the memory foam.
The sleeping.
Comfort is not the goal, but really nice memory foam mattresses are really a plus.
Let me bring it to a little bit more of a natural side. I love to garden, and I knew nothing about it when growing up. I'm learning as I go, and I got excited about this idea of growing seedlings in my kitchen. I was like, oh, so you can get a jump start on the season, right? Get those tomatoes popping faster. And I made these beautiful seedlings. They were gorgeous. I brought them outside and snap, they were dead.
Oh.
I didn't learn about that thing called hardening off, where if you raise something in a completely padded environment where it meets no wind, no challenge of any kind, then the minute it's met with the reality, it dies. So I think that's...
Well, and the opposite end of that spectrum is the bonsai tree. Is a bonsai tree is just a normal tree that has encountered extreme difficulty in the form of wind and poor soil and has been challenged, and they're beautiful by consequence.
It's kind of like the analogy of the caterpillar turning into the butterfly, and it can't actually turn into that beautiful butterfly without forcing its way and struggling through the process.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, good point.
Yes. I also had a thought pop in there. Oh, but it just popped out again.
like the larva,
beautiful
beautiful butterfly
popping out. So disregard.
I'm not the only one that happens to, man.
Oh man.
Ooh. Well, on the topic of challenge and integrity, going down that road as far as mindset, what do you think has been maybe the most important part of your mindset to be able to successfully take on the nomadic journey that you're on?
Okay. I think we touched on this when we spoke before, and I think that differentiating uncertainty from fear. No, I've said that wrong. Differentiating uncertainty from danger, and by doing so alleviating the fear that we tend to we sometimes couple uncertainty with danger, that because I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, I don't know what's going to be around the corner, I don't know what's going to happen when I cross this border at 2:00 in the morning on my way in or out of Mongolia. I don't know if you've ever done a border crossing by train. I hadn't before this trip. They're always at midnight or 2:00 in the morning, and I don't know why. And then they come and they speak a foreign language and they take your passport, and then you say, no, you don't take my passport, I go with you. And then a guy with an assault rifle looks at you and you say, okay, take my passport, it's fine, I didn't like it anyway. And I will be here sitting up in this train car at 2:00 in the morning watching reruns on my phone because waiting for you to bring my passport back because I don't want to fall asleep and miss it. And that there's a lot of uncertainty in that experience, but there's not a lot of danger. and that we don't need to be afraid of it. And I think that's been an important thing for us. And Holly has to remind me of that a lot, that we're going to go do this tomorrow. And we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but that's okay. Uncertainty is okay.
And I want to say, so I'm trying to wrap this all up together, and it's so much better when I have a story to tell rather than go all philosophical froofy. But so the thought that I had, which came back, and now I'm going to try and like wrap it all together, is that intention again. You had a question earlier, Andy, about the book and about the parenting method. And, you know, we went on about the pillars, et cetera. And I think it all boils down to, you want to be a parent who approaches parenting with intention, that you don't just day by day, like, oh, the kids can't put their shoes on again. Like, what are we going to do about this? Disaster after disaster.
I think she's describing it.
Well, all of us, and me, really. I'm the one who can't get my shoes on in the morning to get out the door. But I digress. Taking a moment to figure out your family values and write them down and discuss them and work as a team to figure out which ones really matter. That's the kind of parent you want to be. The kind of life you want to live is the kind where you write it down, you know, what is it that we're pursuing here? Give some time to think about it before you jump into it. Allow yourself that time, whatever it takes to set it aside. And so I think that is going to be the answer to your question for me, is we have come across a lot of tricky times. And there has been a good amount of doubt and that uncertainty that Chris is talking about. But when we got into the car on April 22nd, 2019, the first order of business was to pull out a piece of paper and start brainstorming our new family credo. Like, all right, guys, we are now on the road. What is our purpose? What are we doing? And we went through a good writer's process. And by the end of the week, we had what we've been saying to each other every day, just about every day. It balances out with our gratitude credo, what our mission is. And in those late night times when I can't sleep because I'm panicking about that guard who on the train that Chris was talking about.
He was nice. I'm sure he has a great family. He's a good person. I'm sure his face is always stern like that. I just don't get it.
I do repeat that mantra in my head, you know, the part about comfort is not the goal, or the part where we say, despite my fears, I will persevere, right? And that always comes to my aid. So having taken the time to set down our intentions has really, and create a mindset, just like you were asking, has saved us countless times.
Yeah, having purpose, a why, also to focus on to help move you through those little dips and, like you said, the uncertainties. Yeah.
Yeah. One other thing I heard you say there, Holly, is that mantra, that family credo, helps you shift out of, at least temporarily or permanently perhaps, or for a period of time, the fear and the doubt and maybe the negative thinking that is so natural to humans. And having that credo is kind of your touchstone, your verbal touchstone, or your mental touchstone. And when you can come back to that, it helps you shift out of that negative pretty quickly, and you can continue focusing on the positive and enjoying the moment.
There are times in our household where our kids are singing the exact same 3 bars of music over and over again and over again, like for an hour or 2. And what I've realized is that you can't tell them, stop doing that.
For the record,
he tries.
No, I have noise canceling headphones.
Oh, okay. Chris tries to say, stop singing that song or stop making that noise. But the real way to make it work is to find a new song to sing. Just like you said, you can't not think those negative thoughts. You have to find something positive to think on.
It is the nature of the mind to think, and it will stay on the song that you are singing until you have a better song to sing. Oh, wait, that's like an analogy. So it's kind of like also if you're thinking bad thoughts, then you could replace it with good thoughts, kind of like the same way.
Like the same way.
Hey,
That's awesome.
I just got time.
You know, since we're on the topic, Holly, when we chatted the other day, you had mentioned a positive mindset and just kind of blind optimism, and both of us found that very interesting and curious. I think, from my own personal viewpoint, I spent so much time in my previous careers dealing with the negative, dealing with criminals or, people who were under the influence of some drug, in a negative space, right? And when you're exposed to that type of environment for a long time, you tend to get a little bit jaded, maybe look at humanity as a little bit off. So to me, when you mentioned that, it was like a light bulb went off, and I'm like, perhaps that's what I'm doing wrong here. Perhaps I need to try to tap into that optimism. And when you're traveling the planet, when you're traveling around, you run into lots of different people, and you guys have had lots of interesting stories about all the positive experiences that you had with people. At what point do you think, blind optimism needs to be, I don't know, not curtailed, but reined in a little bit versus just looking at a situation and going, well, maybe this person isn't, I'm getting a bad vibe off of this person. Maybe I need to pull my family back away from this situation.
What's the whole, is the glass 60% full or 40% empty kind of discussion?
Oh yeah, typical.
Right? So I think that there's something to be said for statistics. So, we're in Cambridge right now, Cambridge, England. They're quick to tell you it's one of the oldest colleges around. We're staying in this, I don't know what you'd call it, a bunch of townhouses, and, where we have rent this cute little place. And the kids want to go to the park, and it's down the street. We just arrived, park's down there. We're tired. Yeah, just go wander outside and then come back when you're done. And we had the stranger danger talk with the kids, right? You're familiar with the stranger danger, which is there are strangers out there, and yeah, they're all nice. You can talk to them. I don't know if that's the normal stranger danger, but that's a stranger danger talk. You can talk to them, you can hang out with them. People are universally good and whatnot. Don't get into anyone's van. I didn't mention your van specifically because it probably has memory foam mattress in the back, and that would be fine. But most people's van, I think it's very powerful to be, powerful, so silly thing to say. It's useful to be driven by statistics. Statistically, the person who's going to come up and talk to my child on the street is overwhelmingly a good, positive, decent person. And there is a non-zero chance that they're not. But there's also a non-zero chance that they're going to get struck by lightning, a non-zero chance that a meteor is going to hit them. There's a non-zero chance of a lot of things. And particularly, we're not in suburban America right now, despite the many years that we have lived there. There are a whole bunch of people afraid of the wrong things. We live in a culture that doesn't think it's okay for kids to walk down the street to the park alone. But kids are like 10 times more likely to die in a car accident. We just aren't data driven in the ways that we should be. And you're right. You pick up on things, and you sense some neighborhoods feel safer than others, and some of that's accurate, and some of it's not. But we tend to err on the side of trusting that people are going to be good and decent. We do also tell our children not to get in anyone's van.
I think that's the best way to put it. We err on the side of thinking that people are good and decent because on the whole they are. We just aren't stupid at the same time,
Yeah. So putting out a field of energy of trust and acceptance, but not blindly so.
Oh, 100%. You said that
Yeah.
so well. I was thinking, what is it like? It's like I have this thing that I'm projecting that people are going to be good. You said it so beautifully. That's it. And then I find exactly what I'm looking for. You
To
know?
a very large extent. Absolutely.
So travel during COVID. You mentioned this a little bit earlier, but you know what? So you go from the Gobi Desert to England, a wide open space to, you know, lots of buildings, lots of people. What's changed?
We had such good plans, guys.
Oh,
They were good plans. We were eddied in Cambodia just 2 weeks before we were supposed to go to our Thai kickboxing camp.
Never get that deposit back.
No.
We were trying to figure out how you could take a bus from Thailand through Myanmar into Bangladesh. And everything we read online said it was impossible. And half of the people we talked to said it was impossible, but these two nice Indian guys said, you know what, if you want to badly enough, you'll figure out how.
Was that the one who gave me a gold ring in the back of the bus?
Yes, he tried to propose to her. I was one seat forward.
I was like, you know, that's my husband.
And he gave her a ring and tried to kiss her.
It was odd, guy.
But he said,
again, people are good, and
he didn't want.
You know,
he was being nice.
He was just optimistic, like
and
me.
he
What can
said
we say?
if we wanted badly enough to take private cars through, you know, get someone to drive us through Myanmar, through kind of where the sectarian violence is going there, just south of Nepal, that we could do it. We should just bring lots of cash. And
we weren't sure we were really going to do that, but at any rate,
I was very optimistic that as we got closer, we would acquire more information. But then everything shut down.
It does put into perspective the kind of level of risk we were able to consider with a clear conscience, and suddenly the level of risk just exploded. Right? It's like
It won't be so different.
Yeah, the world really changed out there. You know.
So we were going to be in Cambodia for 1 week. And then all of a sudden the border started closing. And I'm really glad, as I was kind of journaling a little bit, I kept a timeline of like, oh, India closed their borders. Oh, that's interesting. That's too bad. Maybe, and then this happened, and then the Thai kickboxing camp got closed, but that was isolated. There were some cases in that particular place. So we can't go there, but maybe we'll go somewhere else in Thailand, you know? And then like 24 hours later, like this happens, and all of a sudden you're like, oh no, this is getting real, and it's getting real fast.
The borders are closing.
Borders are closing, and
one after another. Yeah.
And then we looked at the prospect of flying back to America, but we were in Cambodia. If you haven't been to Cambodia, it's really, really far away from America.
And it seemed like getting on a plane was very dangerous. That, you know, there was a lot of talk about the virus spreading on the airplanes. That will putting ourselves on and it's
minimum three flights to get back home from Cambodia.
That didn't seem wise. And quite honestly, we weren't ready to toss in the towel just yet. You know, this was only a year into it. Like, is there any way we can keep this dream alive, guys?
So we tried to fly to Australia. So we actually, you know, we talk about resilience and kids adapting to things when they are accepting of uncertainty. Is we said, okay, we're going to stay in Cambodia. This was our plan. It was a great plan. We're going to stay in Cambodia. We're going to slow travel through Cambodia. We're going to explore. In the morning, we'll get up and we will see dolphins in the Mekong River.
I think that's what we're going to do, guys. That's our plan, and we're sticking to it.
And we put
good night. We love you.
We put the kids to bed. And then we talked to some friends, and we talked to some world traveling friends who we met in Mongolia, and they're a Swiss family. And we talked to them. They were back home in Switzerland, recently back from their travels. And we talked to them, and then we spoke to an Italian woman who had spent the last year in Cambodia.
Yeah.
And we spoke to a French friend of ours who was traveling and had settled down in Thailand. And then I think we spoke to a German friend of ours who was...
At any rate, after all that discussion, we thought, what are we thinking?
We're going to Australia. So we bought tickets to Australia.
Let's go to a place where we can speak the language fluently and already have tested out the healthcare and emergency system with our son's accident a couple months before that.
They have very friendly emergency rooms, we know from firsthand experience. So we bought plane tickets, and like 6 hours later, we wake up the kids early in the morning, and we're like, hey, we booked a bus. We're going to Siem Reap, and we're going to fly to Australia. And they're like, what about the dolphins? And we're like, no dolphins. And they're like, okay. And so we cut across the middle of the country. We have to take a ferry across the Mekong because the route we're taking, like no one does this. Because there's no reason to do this unless you find yourself here and all of a sudden you want to cut your trip short and be like, I need to fly out of Siem Reap. So we book off to Siem Reap. We show up, get the taxi driver to drop us off outside of a Mexican restaurant.
Sit down to your
Claims
Cambodian
to be
Mexican.
the number one, according to their own signage. I took a picture. The number one Mexican restaurant in all of Southeast Asia, which might be the one Mexican restaurant in all of Southeast Asia. So they by ipso facto, they're correct. Anyway, I check my email. We're sitting there eating something that is like a burrito. And I check my email, and Australia is closing their borders.
Hi, this is Andy Panfield, Chief Adventure Officer at Fierce Planet Adventures and licensed Unbeatable Mind Coach. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are you're the kind of person who never settles for anything less than they can be in all areas of your life. But right now, there's something telling you that you can do more, be more. Stop holding yourself back. As an Unbeatable Mind Coach, I help committed people get extraordinary results. Unbeatable Mind principles have transformed tens of thousands of lives. Individuals wanting to reignite the passion and sense of purpose they once had, or find it for the first time. Successful professionals who want to experience fulfillment in all areas of their lives, not just business. Men and women who want to know how to navigate VUCA times, volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. Times like we're experiencing right now. Those wanting to feel a strong sense of confidence and purpose. People looking to find a way to leave a legacy and be the kind of person they know they can be, consistently. Men and women who have this gnawing sense that they can do more, be more. Learn the big four skills of mental toughness and emotional resiliency. Discover your passion and uncover your unique purpose in life. Your calling, the one thing that sets your soul ablaze and gets you out of bed in the morning. As a licensed, Unbeatable Mind Coach, I am thrilled to be able to offer you the opportunity to work one-on-one to help you download the entire Unbeatable Mind operating system to guide you on your journey to become unbeatable so that you can effectively deal with virtually any situation that comes up during these VUCA times. To learn more, direct message me on Facebook or Twitter or email me at info@fierceplanetadventures.com to set up your free consultation. As a special thank you, you'll receive a link to get 30-day trial of Unbeatable Mind Foundation's online training. Act now. Available coaching opportunities are limited and they fill up quickly. Direct message me today at Fierce Planet Adventures on Facebook or Twitter, or email me at info@fierceplanetadventures.com to set up your free consultation. Stop holding yourself back. Act now to become unbeatable.
Australia is closing their borders.
No.
Oh no. So like get a tuk-tuk and we're headed off to the airport. I don't know why we thought we'd go to the airport. We thought we'd go to the airport and
This is
solve
my
this.
genius plan.
It was her
That's why
genius plan.
we
We're going to
thought.
go talk to someone at the counter, but like there's no one at the counter.
There literally was no one at the counter, guys. All these people walking around like zombies and no one to help them behind the counter.
And
So
all
it
of
was
the
a little
employees
sad.
were like hiding in the back being like, because if you look up at the screen, like 3/4 of the flights are canceled. And
Yeah.
the flight that we were supposed to take wasn't technically canceled, but we weren't going to be allowed off the plane. And so we're looking at it, but it was only closing like four hours or something after we were set to land. So we started looking like, is there a shorter itinerary? Can we leave sooner? Like, can we anything? And like we bought tickets, but then it didn't go through, and then we didn't, and we had to get to Singapore, and we're like, all right, guys, we're going to Australia. Oh, wait, hold on. No, we're not going to Australia. No, we're not going to Australia, guys.
Wait, we found some tickets?
Oh, we're going to Australia. We're going to Australia. We're going to Australia. And then we're not going to Australia. And then we're like, we're tired. We're hungry. It's been a long time. We're just sitting. The boys are playing cards on the floor of the airport. And this is like the beginning of social distancing. Everyone's like really far. No one has a mask. Everyone's like really far from me, and no one knows what to do. And we're sitting there with our laptop and 2 phones. Like, my mother back home is like searching for flights for us. We have a friend in New Zealand searching for flights for us. And we're like, we give up. We booked a really nice house near the airport. We're just going to go. We're going to stay in Cambodia. That was what we said. We said, we're staying in Cambodia. We're staying in Cambodia. And then I get this email and we're like packing up, and I check my email one more time and it says, there are 5 more tickets to Australia. Do you want it? I'm like, guys, what do we do? And they're like, let's go to Australia. And we did it. And then it didn't work. And we're like, we want to be in Cambodia. It's all about, we have plan A and plan A.
Mm-hmm.
And whichever plan A happens that was the plan A.
I think what you wanted to dry out though was that these kids are just unbelievably flexible. Chris and I are really, we're on a short wire right now. Like, oh my God, what, the world is falling down.
But they are so much better.
And these kids are like, we'll be all right. It's Cambodia. It's cool.
Can I see a picture of that house? Does it have a pool?
It has a pool?
We got a pool. Who cares?
Everything's fine.
We had a pool in our backyard for 2 months. Who
It's a
cares?
pandemic pool. So we hung out in Cambodia.
It was a private pool. It was not a pandemic pool. Don't call it.
Yeah, no,
pandemic.
it's
That's
terrible.
The private saltwater pool in our backyard of our Cambodia. Hey,
We hung out there for a good 2 months. And like I say, we wanted to feel like the dream was still alive, that we weren't stuck somewhere. So we were looking for any window of opportunity, and that came in the form of Britain. That was really the only border that seemed open and safe. Going back to we didn't just like, well, let's plop over to Africa or to
South America, whatever.
Demilitarized zone like that.
Thinking of North Korea. North Korea was claiming 0 cases at that point, so we could have gone there again.
We went somewhere that we figured this was a safe place to weather a storm that we did not really understand.
Yeah, and I'm happy to say it worked. Like we timed it very well because they have since added restrictions on travel and quarantining and whatnot, but they were coming down. They had a rough go in the early months, but they got it largely under control. And we kind of arrived at that point when it was coming under control, and we went hiking and we stayed away from people and kind of changed our pace. And now we're trying to figure out how to travel in this new world. We want to be safe and yet at the same time explore the world around ourselves.
And be responsible too. That was the big kicker was, can we really move ourselves about and be potential super spreaders?
Don't say that.
And,
Don't say
and
the
think,
SS word.
oh, sorry. The SS word.
It's hyphenated.
So we navigated those waters as best we could,
Sure.
And we continue to.
Yes. Yep.
So the key then is traveling during the time of COVID is Semper Gumby. Just always
Semper
flexible.
Always be flexible.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Always be
Nice.
flexible. Well, and I think it's.
Oh, and you have
it's
to do
always-
more pre-booking.
Oh, yeah, that's
We talked
frustrating.
about that yesterday.
Yeah.
It's always useful in traveling, but COVID really puts it to the test. I think you're Semper Gumby. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It makes all trips better if you're flexible, but it's necessary now. And the world will go back to normal, I think at some point. But we don't have to give up. We have to modify, we have to adjust, we have to be safe, and we have to be responsible. But there are a lot of adventures still open to us, even still.
Mm-hmm.
It turns out you can social distance really well on the top of a mountain.
Indeed.
It's the best kind of social distance.
Yeah, we're talking to the choir right now.
Yeah, we've been paying attention to what's been going on in Colorado, especially the 14,000 foot peaks. And it
Here in
seems
England,
like
they have some 14ers, but they mean 1,400.
1,400, yeah, a little
That's
different,
what a 14 area is here.
Yeah, and we had thought about traveling back, and then we just saw just this explosion of people on the Facebook forums, the 14ers, and more activity than we've ever seen on those forums. And we're like, maybe we really don't want to be up in the mountains right now. But, we were lucky enough to be able to shift fire and go explore some of the mountains in the southeast here and in the Appalachian Mountains. Completely different, right? Different texture, different feel, different situation, but still beautiful. Just an amazing area that I'm really happy we stuck around and got to explore this area, and we're still exploring it. There's a lot to be seen.
Yeah.
Well, our culture tends to, perhaps human beings universally, we tend to pile on the number one. Everyone wants to climb Everest because it's the highest, or that, they want to climb, wherever the highest is. And there's a lot of beautiful places that aren't the highest, that aren't the biggest, that aren't the lowest, that aren't the, longest trail. And there are a lot of places that are less explored, just as wonderful, just as beautiful, just as adventurous. It's tough.
Either way, it works.
Yeah, okay. Adventure-y, just as adventure-y, that are not going to be as crowded.
See, what are we doing here? We're expanding the English lexicon here, right? We're
wonderful. I'm so proud.
This is great. Oh, Casey, you had a question that I think we kind of skipped over here. I jumped the gun, but regarding family dynamics.
Oh yeah, just kind of curious. I have two older brothers, so when we were on family road trips of, a couple of hours, they had to separate us somehow in the car and, keep us from fighting. And I mean, y'all are traveling for months at a time and with 3 kids. And what's that family dynamic like? Or does everyone just gets along pretty well and meshes together all the time? Or is that something that
Mistress Holly, would you like to answer that? Or with your permission, would you prefer that I, ma'am?
What? Who are you? I'm going to start.
Yes, ma'am. As it pleases you.
Yes, thank you. I think that my kids actually like the travel time as some of the best time. I'm thinking of the long train rides, like 3 days on a Siberian train without stepping foot off for, more than 20-minute stretch. They loved it. Oh my gosh, because it meant that we were going to stop pestering them and they could disappear into their books as much as they wanted to, or they could play with their games. They put together a whole show starring their stuffed animals, hung up a curtain with their paracord, and the blanket of the bunk bed and stuff. I mean, that's their favorite time, I would say, rather than the forced marches across Kyrgyzstan borders and stuff.
they enjoy their time. What they can't do, the train's easier because we have more space, and I'd be like, I'll be in the dining car. I think I can get 2 beers for $1 here, and they can hang things in the room and in the cabin, and I don't mean hang things like execution style. I just mean like hang curtains and stuff. But we just found out that our son is not asleep.
Our son's not asleep because he just laughed at that one.
That commentary coming from the peanut gallery. At any rate, worst parents. He's supposed to go to sleep. And but in the car, they get along really well, but they don't whisper. They don't know how to whisper. They don't understand
this is what you're going to talk about.
Concept. They're noisy. And so I say, stop talking. And then they have to do quiet time, and quiet time means like reading a book or whatever. They like reading. That's huge. Reading's wonderful. They tried to play. They have this card game they like to play called Magic. You normally play it on a table. You need lots of space and lots of cards. So for a while they had taken cardboard boxes, like discarded like crates from buying, vegetables. And then they kept the boxes with them for a while because we didn't have scissors. We don't have scissors or tape. And so you have to like wait until you get to an Airbnb. So like we got to one Airbnb that had scissors, but no tape. So we were able to cut the pieces to make this amazing invention. And then we had to wait until we got to a different, place we were staying that had tape. We're like, okay, we can tape it all together.
Which failed, but then we came across the one with a glue gun.
Glue gun.
Bonus!
Glue gun. Hi, yeah, so do you have extra towels and an extra pillow, and a glue gun? Does your Airbnb include?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't see
Sure.
the listing. Is that include? Do you have? Okay, good, thanks. Glue gun, that would be great. And so they made these like cardboard boxes that fit in their lap, these trays, and then they had different compartments to play their card game. And then they did that like once, and then they never touched it again. And then finally, I'm going to recycle these boxes. They've been sitting in the back of the trunk, blocking my view of backing up. I backed over 3 puppies and 2 bicycles because I couldn't see. I was backing up because of these boxes. And but that's kind of the whole point, is the process of dreaming of how this was going to work, finding the materials, cutting the materials. Like this was like a project of a month to get these, and then it kind of worked, but whatever, we're moving on now. Was half of the fun for somebody. I don't know, I'm highly entertained by it. I thought it was great. I feel bad about the puppies, but I thought it was wonderful. And now they have this shoebox, and they just use it for keeping those drawing pads that you bought them. They They don't even play cards in it.
These kids are awesome kids. They're the best of friends. You know, yeah, they'll have a spat from time to time about this thing or that, but I mean, really, they're a pack. They're a solid pack.
I read something when the kids were probably when the first one was a baby, back when I was still reading books, and trying to kind of formulate, you know, how we would do this parenting thing. And I just remember, amongst all the things I read, was this weird study they did where they took toddlers and they put them in a room with different quantities of toys. And the more toys they put the child in the room with, the less they played, the less they enjoyed. They, you know, it's decision fatigue. It's the reason that I can't buy toothpaste, because I stand there in the aisle and I look at, 14,000 different types of toothpaste, and they're all okay. Like, they're all an acceptable price and they're all an acceptable quality. So how do you choose? It's Buridan's Buridan's donkey. It's a fascinating, he was the French philosopher who coined the term. If there are two equally desirable patches of grass, how do you choose which one to eat? Well, how do you choose from all of these? How does this have to do with, what are we talking about? Oh, so if there are 1,000 toys for the toddler to play with, how does the toddler choose which toy? And they have a nervous breakdown. And, but if you put 2 toys in a room with a toddler, they choose one. And children are the same way. So if we give them so many toys, they don't know what to do with themselves. But if there's a cardboard box and that's like what you have to play with, you figure it out. And we're no different as adults, you know, that if I'm presented with, 10, actually we were discussing, we don't know where we're going tomorrow. Maybe Holly's figured it out, but like, where should we go tomorrow? We can go anywhere. Where do we go? And it's hard once you say, okay, well, some people said we should go south. Okay, well, we'll go south. Well, that narrows it down. Once you start narrowing things down, you can make choices. But when you have too many options, and I think that we...
So you're trying to say the family dynamic is good because our children only have paracord
and a half
cardboard,
a rock collection,
and some books. And that's, no, they like each other. And we like them and they like us. I think that helps a lot.
That does help a lot.
Yeah, for sure.
I think
Bonus.
That helps. Yeah, right? If we didn't like each other by now, we'd either like each other or something terribly would have happened by now.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So tomorrow notwithstanding, what's next for the 5 Backpacks family? What's your next big adventure? Where are you headed off to after England? Or do you even know?
We thought that we would go vote in the United States of America.
We haven't. We were the initial plan when we set off a year and a half ago was to come back and visit every 6 months, with an unknown duration of overall travel, but visits every 6 months. And we didn't come back 6 months ago to visit for obvious reasons, and so we've decided that it's time to come back and visit.
It's time to go see our family.
So we will be coming back in a couple of weeks to visit family.
At a safe distance.
Ah,
bites.
We are going to see each other. So instead of seeing each other over Zoom, we'll see each other from the far side of the porch, I guess, is the going plan.
From the car through the window.
It's something, we'll take what we can get. And
we thought we would take a look at our old stomping grounds with a new perspective that we've gained after traveling the world, and what we see as beautiful and what we see as wholesome and the kind of life that we'd like to lead for our family, and see if that exists where here and there and around where we used to be.
We'll tour the East Coast a little bit by car, and then at some point it's just a waiting game to see what borders do or don't. Do situations get better or worse? And we'd love to see South America.
Semper Gumby.
Semper Gumby.
Yeah, I'd love to say that we have these wonderful plans to go. There's so many more places I want to see, and we can't do that planning. So instead, we plan for what we can. Yeah.
Well, I think that's kind of the part of the magic of this nomadic lifestyle is you can, COVID notwithstanding, just be like, hey, you know what? This is on my list. Let's get up and let's go. And I think to me that was very enticing, right? There's so much to see in the world, so many awesome adventures to be had that the possibilities are nearly endless, and you just got to go out and do it. And life is not lived on the couch in front of the TV. It's lived out there in the world, and go live it. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. Awesome. So we've been going almost 50 minutes now. So thank you. I know it's getting late over there across the pond. Where can folks follow your adventures and your blog posts?
So our blog is at www.5backpacks.family. That's 5 spelled out F-I-V-E, 5backpacks.family. We're also on all of those, annoying social media platforms. And they can subscribe there, and we send out a weekly newsletter when we get around to writing something.
Yeah.
And we'd love to hear from someone. And our emails are, what's our email? I don't remember. I think it's hello@5backpacks.family. That's what
Nice.
I need. And I never write to myself. That's why I don't remember. And we'd love to hear from people. And yeah.
It's really helpful to keep these conversations going. It's been a rough week for me personally. Every now and then you just come across you start feeling the weight of the world. And it's been one of those kind of weeks for me. And reading your blog was wonderfully inspirational. Reading some of the good dad edge that we talked to months ago, and then having this fantastic conversation with you puts the mind back onto the positive and our intentions.
Well, it's like the credo, it's a reminder. Zig Ziglar, I don't know if you're a Zig Ziglar fan.
Oh,
He used
yeah.
to say, we don't need to be told, we just need to be reminded. We know what to do. You get up, you put on a happy face, you go do things that are great, and you enjoy the process, bring some good into the world. And then sometimes we get tired and we're like,
our rep days are like, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to. I'm gonna stay.
And you can't make me.
Yeah.
Just try.
But we're in England and Harry Potter's on the TV again, so we're going to watch that.
We're going to watch that. Exactly. Right. But it just...
the best place we saw Harry Potter was in Uzbekistan.
No way.
And he was like, Gary Potter, Germany, that's what I remember. Anyway.
But it just goes back to what we started with, is the idea that, a parenting book is only superficially a parenting book. It's how the heck we should be living. We're not done developing. We're not done being parented. It's just, we just ran out. People got tired of parenting us and kicked us out of the house. So we have to parent ourselves now. And
I hate that.
I know. It's the worst.
Oh, no, the worst is when your spouse does it. Yeah, better you do it yourself.
When she says, like, remember page 86, I'm like,
right here.
It's right here. You wrote that line.
But what I'm trying to say is thank you very, very much for the privilege of getting to talk to you about these important things and remind ourselves why we're here, what we're doing.
And thank you both. It's just talking to you the last 2 days too has been an inspiration for us as well. And
absolutely.
I also enjoyed reading your blog posts and the humor that you add into a lot of those. I really enjoyed it. Get a lot from it.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks.
And I believe that we're following your adventures on Instagram. Is that where it is, Casey?
Yeah.
We got Instagram. So there's another avenue for folks to follow you. So we've got the 5backpacks.family. We've got Resilience Parenting website, as well as available on Amazon. And then, so Potomac Kempo, are you guys heading back there?
Yeah, we get to stop in, and I'm not entirely sure how we teach lessons from across the room now. So that's going to be
okay.
It's going to be fascinating to see that those awesome instructors have really weathered this storm in an amazing way. We owe them a great debt.
We have 5
So we'll go check out what they're doing.
And they jumped to Zoom teaching without missing a beat, and then social distance teaching without missing a beat. And they are spectacular, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing them as individuals, because they're also some of my closest friends, and as well as wonderful instructors. So
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again both so much. This has been really the highlight of my day here. So thank you.
This is a Cambodian thing you just did there with your hands, the 2 palms together.
Mm-hmm.
they don't do the shaking hands thing.
No, they just
I
okay.
loved it,
They
and
do.
it's so
They
it
do
was
way
so
ahead.
appropriate
Even before
for
this
this
year.
time. Put your hands together and say thank you. It's been wonderful meeting you.
Susanai.
Here's our cultural education moment. Wonderful. Awesome,
Bye,
you guys.
friends.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so
well.
much. Best of luck to you.
You too.